Hello, this is the fifth Southern Nature Art Exhibition interview. I'm here with Kerry Vaughan. Hello, Kerry.
Hi there, Joe.
Why don't you introduce yourself? How long have you been an artist? What are your mediums that you use? All of that.
Okay, so I haven't always been a full-time artist. I think, like most people, I started doing other jobs first, office jobs, and I have always drawn and painted, but I went back to college when I was 28 and decided to try and make a career out of it full-time. I then went on to university and got my degree in illustration and printmaking. And I worked as a freelance illustrator for some time. And then I gradually got into doing commissioned work. And through that, and through my love of wildlife, I started doing more and more commissions for people. A lot of dog and horse portraits for people, but wildlife as well. And it was much nicer dealing with customers on a one-to-one basis rather than when you're an illustrator, there's lots of art directors and various people in between people. So and you have to be very business minded, I think, to go down that route. I'm sadly not. So it works better for me dealing with people on a one-to-one basis. And so that's where I am today, really. But yes, I've been doing it a fair while now. But and it's hard to make a living out of it. I think if you're not brought up in the technical age like you younger people are, it's something you have to really take on board and make yourself learn. So I have tried to do that and get onto social media, and I've got a website and one thing and another, but it's yeah, here we are.
Yeah, I suppose like when you've got that exhibition space sort of all over the country, but I'm thinking especially of ours, makes it easier, I suppose, because it's not all online. There are still customers to interact with.
Yeah, I mean, I do take part in exhibitions as well, and to be honest, it helps hugely to go out there and meet people and talk to people. And I do art trails, so that helps a lot because you can show a lot of your work and talk about it to people, which, you know, it's great to have a website because you can direct people to a website to see the rest of your work and examples of your work, but there's nothing beats talking to customers on a one-to-one basis, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. And while we can't do that this year, hopefully this sort of makes up for it.
Yes.
Yeah,
you take what you can get.
exactly. Meant to ask, where am I zooming you from today? Where are you quarantined?
I'm in West Sussex. I'm sort of between Chichester and Arundel on the South Down. So really beautiful part of the world.
I'm from Hereford originally, so I know quite
well.
How
are you?
Yeah.
Right, not so far then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you work in silver, which was quite interesting to me, and that's a recent thing. Is that right?
Well, I've got back into it more recently. When I was at school, I actually was in 1900 and frozen to death. I was the only girl who did metal work because girls weren't allowed to do science and they weren't allowed to do certain subjects. But I really wanted to do metal work, and it gave me a taste for it. And I wanted to be a silversmith, actually. So I wanted to go to art college and do silversmithing when I was 16, 17. But at the time I was being interviewed down at Portsmouth, I was 15, and they said, well, we really want you to go away and take your A-levels and then come back to us. And I didn't really want to do that anyway, but I also unfortunately had a very serious motorbike accident and I couldn't walk for nearly a year. So by the time that my circumstances had changed and I had to get a job, then you get into you've got to earn a living. So it all went by the by. And it was only when I was, later in life that I was able to actually go back to university full time. But by then I hadn't thought I had enough design capability to be a silversmith. And because I'd always drawn, that was my obvious choice to go into illustration. But now that a few years after I was doing illustration, because I specialised in printmaking, which was working with metal plates as well. So I did aquatints and etchings at university. And then I sold a lot of my limited edition aquatints through galleries. it was all still working with metal, so I always had that yearning to do it. And so when, you know, in later years, there are workshops for everything now that you can do. There weren't when I first started. And I went back and did silversmithing at workshops and got back into it and just thought, I just love this. And I love working with tools. And working in, again, I dabble in a bit of sculpture. So when you dabble with 3D things, it does inform your drawing, I think. Because quite often when you're drawing animals, you're working from reference, which is 2D, and drawing in 2D. And you sort of forget that the animal is a rounded shape. It's, you know, it's a whole rounded thing. So working in sculpture or something like even the silversmithing, it just re-informs you that, yeah, you've got to think around the edges. You've got to think about the animal as a whole, or whatever it is you're doing. But it's just nice to do something that's craft-based rather than simply sitting at an easel and drawing all the time as well.
Yeah.
You know.
Mm.
And I'm a bit of a magpie, I'm afraid. I think a lot of creative people are, that you don't just like one thing. You sort of get really interested. You know, when you see somebody doing something different, you think, oh, I want to have a go at that. And you just, you know, keep sort of picking and poking at all different kinds of things.
Mm.
I think if you're creative, that's, you know, how you are, isn't it?
Is there anybody in particular that's made a real impact on you in terms of their work, in terms of looking at what they do? Is there any names you can name?
Well, when I was, sorry, the postman's slightly distracting me. when I was younger, and I was more focused on illustration. I mean, it still bears true today, I suppose. I really liked Arthur Rackham with all his illustrations, and I loved the imagination in it because I had a very vivid imagination when I was younger. It's gone a bit by the by over the years, and you get a bit cynical, but Edmund Dulac and all those sort of people who did these, he did the Arabian Nights illustrations, and they're just beautiful work. Because I like printmaking, I also like people like Robert Gilmore and Tunnicliffe, his prints that he did. I mean, funnily, Tunnicliffe is known a lot for his book illustrations in watercolours and advertising, but actually he did some fantastic prints, you know, etchings and linos and woodcuts, and they all really appeal to me as well. And again, it's all wildlife subjects, you know, so that's what appeals to me.
Yeah. Just going further into that idea of the natural realm of wildlife, why do you find that so appealing? Like, what is it about it that you just feel need to capture it on canvas or in sculpture or whatever?
Yeah, that's a really hard question to answer in some ways, because I mean, it is my passion. I live in the countryside. I love the countryside. It's all around me, and particularly during lockdown, you know, I've had more time to sit and be outside, particularly in that lovely hot weather. And where I regularly do my journeys between art events and home, I'm going across the South Downs all the time and the beautiful rolling hills. And every time you go out there, you're just inspired and you're just fascinated by what you see. Well, I am. And I think a lot of people are. A lot of people have rediscovered nature during lockdown. But, you know, we are very lucky that we get lots of visitors to our garden with birds, deer, rabbits, you name it, we get them. And we get a lot of unusual species in our garden that perhaps other people don't get generally, because we are surrounded by fields and the hills. So it's there all the time, and just things fascinate you. Like, you know, when you go on holiday and you pick up sand dollars, I don't know if you've ever seen them. They're, you know, like sea urchins. They're sometimes called sea biscuits, around things, and they've got a petal design in the shell. And you think, how's that happened? You know, nature is just fantastic. So yeah, it's a constant source of inspiration, really, to me.
That's awesome. I just want to ask, what do you get in your garden that you didn't normally imagine getting?
Well, we've seen a lot of sparrowhawk lately, because the RSPB is just across the way from us, the Pulborough Brooks. We, of course, where they've shut down and they're not feeding their birds anymore, we've somehow managed to adopt their sparrows and their pigeons. and because of that, it's a plentiful food source for the sparrowhawk. So we've seen a lot of the sparrowhawk, not necessarily in a good way when it's capturing one of them. But we've had an owl box down the far end of our garden in an oak tree for years, and we've been so disappointed because it's always been squirrels or crows that have made a nest in it. But last year we had the barn owl nesting in it. Now that was like, wow, how fantastic is that? Brilliant. And like the other morning, you know, we were up late and we went to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning, and the security light came on outside, and I thought, oh, what's that there? And there was a tawny owl just sat on the bird bath. Just, you know, oh, it was the most fantastic thing. And we were like, oh, that's amazing, you know. So we're always being surprised. You know, you can wake up in the morning and it's misty and there's 4 deer walking through your garden from the local estate, you know, that have come across the fields. It's just fantastic. Yeah. We are very, very lucky to live here.
Honestly, you know, in your art, you try so hard to take these wonderful things and put them into a place where more people can experience them. And I just wonder, like, how do you define your style? How do you say you do that? Like, you in particular?
Well, I work in a fairly realistic way, so I try to capture as much realism as possible. But I've sort of realised over the years, and I'm trying to change and loosen up a little bit myself now, because I'm striving to draw what I see, exactly what I see, but actually that doesn't always convey the emotion of what you see, the love of it. So I'm trying to put in slightly more heightened colour or something that expresses that emotion in a different way. I don't always put the stuff I experiment with out there. I'm secretly trying to go in a slightly different direction myself by just trying to convey my love of it rather than a realistic depiction of it. But a lot of the work on my website is quite realistic, obviously.
I'd love to take a look at some of your work, Kerry. So I've got some saved. I'll just screen share it quickly.
Okay.
And jump down here. So look at this blue tip. Oh, that's very nice, isn't it? So, like, tell me about that.
Okay, so this was done actually quite a few years ago, but it's of a blue tit, and it was sitting under our apple tree, and it was late spring, early summer. So all the colours in the background are sort of reflecting those colours, and I thought it kind of, you know, gave those perfect colours that were going on, and that epitomises, I suppose, our garden. That we're very lucky to get these little beautiful garden birds, but with wonderful colours in the background. Because our garden is not one of what you might call manicured. It's semi-wild, but it does attract a lot of wildlife because of that. So right on our doorstep, I've got these, you know, fantastic reference pictures, basically.
I can see what you mean about the realism as well, the detail.
Yeah. Things like, you know, I'm trying to get the branches exactly right and those sort of things, but then trying to make the background a bit more artistic, I suppose, in a way.
Yeah. Focus is where it should be. That's amazing.
Yeah.
What about this lovely hair? He's very characteristic. Right, so he's looking right at us. It's brilliant.
Yeah, so this, I mean, again, this is where I'm starting to get a little bit more whimsical. Now, obviously, that never actually happened. In the background is Hanukkah Windmill, which I'm constantly driving past on my way to and from Chichester, because I take the back roads. And I don't know, something about a windmill on a hill. How magical is that? And this one has been restored with the sails, so it looks really beautiful. So it's an idealised version of it with the poppies, and I'm really massively into hares at the moment. So, you know, I've obviously put him in that setting, and that isn't realistic, but it's an attractive picture of an animal which I think is amazing, and a scene that I love. And you probably won't be able to see, but down in the bottom corner there's a stone, and it's got the triskill hares on it, which is 3 hares that chase each other around in a circle, and they're all joined by one ear. It's an ancient motif, and I've made jewellery designed around that triskill hares as well in the silver. So I've, quite often ideas that I've got in my artwork translates into my jewellery making as well.
Let's look at some of that jewellery. I think I have one. There we go.
Okay, so this is blue opal wood, which I think stone, which you find in Indonesia. Once a year, I go to a big jewelry and bead fair, and I buy these fantastic cabochons, which are hand polished by this wonderful chap. But these stones, I mean, they're all mined in amazing places, and within them, they've got their own little landscapes in a way. Because when you look at, well, I look at that and I can see a blue sky and a tree in the one corner, and then maybe a river coming down one side. So that's what appeals to me about that. You can almost see like a little watercolor painting in itself. So obviously I design and put them in a setting, and then sell them as silver jewelry. But that's what I really love about it. Again, it's natural stone and it's got these fantastic designs in it.
Yeah. I think we've got one final piece, which is not really British wildlife as much, but it's brilliant.
Yeah, the cheetah head. This was a commission actually from friends of mine who've commissioned me to do quite a lot of different pictures for them, and this was one of a set of 4 square pictures. Now, again, I've been very lucky to go on safari a few times. And so I have done a lot of wildlife pictures, because when I go out there, I'm the one on the back of the Jeep saying, "Don't go yet, I'm still drawing," whereas everyone else is snapping away with photographs. But this one, the picture was actually taken by my friends that were on safari, and it was just such a beautiful picture. It was a joy to do. This is the kind of commission I love doing because it was such a beautiful reference picture to draw from. But it shows you how the pastel works tremendously well with the fur. And again, who doesn't love a big cat? Aren't they fantastic?
It's brilliant.
Oh, thank you.
You mentioned lockdown earlier, and how you found that as an opportunity to sort of spend more time creating, some more time working on your art. And it's great that you've seen the opportunities there. It's great that you've sort of seized those. But have there been any challenges as well?
Well, yes, I have to say that when it first happened, I'd done a huge body of work all ready to go out on an art trail. And all of a sudden, everything came to a standstill. And I found it extremely disheartening. So I have to say, for the first probably 6 weeks, I didn't do very much at all. Sorry, I've just been completely distracted because there's a fantastic bird just hopped on the fence. Anyway,
what is it?
And I just could not, motivate myself to work. And I thought, why aren't I taking this opportunity when I'm not having to rush out there and do all this work to get on and do the things I want to explore? But I just couldn't. I don't know what it was. I think I was just, because up to that point, every year you work towards these exhibitions and deadlines, and all of a sudden there was poof, nothing. I had 2 or 3 commissions on the back burner, but nothing that was desperate to be done. But because we had all that hot weather, it gave me a chance to sit and look and reassess and think, well, what direction do I want to go in? What do I want to do? And now we're coming to the end of it, of course. I'm back in there. Oh, I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do this. I want to do that. And oh God, there isn't enough time. So
but it took you a while to get into sort of the right space for it, I guess.
It did, yeah. And I didn't even really do any sketching to start with, and that's really unusual for me because I've always thought if I was stuck on a desert island, the thing that would drive me mad would be if I didn't have a piece of paper and a pencil. So long as I could draw, I could cope with anything.
Yeah.
But I just didn't draw for quite a long time, which was really weird for me.
Yeah. And certainly, I imagine for some people, lockdown's been an opportunity to really start drawing or start thinking about, moving on their creative passions. I was wondering what advice you'd have for somebody who either they've just started, drawing and painting and creating, or they've been doing it for a few years, but lockdown's given them the chance to think about doing it professionally. So, like, what advice would you give to somebody in either of those positions?
I suppose if you're doing it as a hobby, my advice would be, and quite often it's because people are having to work full time. There are so many opportunities now which are fantastic to do workshops. Obviously it couldn't happen during lockdown, but things are starting to get back to normal. At weekends you can do workshops, or go on YouTube. There are so many tutorials on YouTube that will help you, and just take 10 minutes to watch one on whatever it is you want to have a go at. And it's amazing what you can find out there now on the internet, to give you help. But just keep a sketchbook and draw all the time, and don't draw like someone's going to look at it. Draw it for you, because people get inhibited by a piece of paper and think, oh God, if it goes wrong, somebody's going to see it and think I'm really rubbish. But don't let anybody see it. You draw it for you. Just keep drawing, and the more you draw, the better you'll get, because it's like every single subject. The more you practice, the better you'll get. But if you want to do it for a living, I'm probably not the best person to ask, because like most artists, I'm pretty rubbish at the business side of things. But I think if you really do want to make a go of it, you have got to get your business head on. You've got to be across social media. You've got to get tech savvy. You've got to get out there, get your work out there. It's no point having a room full of artwork and nobody sees it. If you want to make a business, you've got to get it out there however you can, on Facebook, Twitter, website, whatever.
Sure.
Exhibitions. Join your local art society, and they will give you help and encouragement.
Yeah, it's a friendly place, the art world, we promise.
It is. I mean, most people are so willing to help you and to give you help and advice. And I always say that to people when I'm doing art trails, don't come and talk to me because you think I'm going to force you into making a commission. Come and talk to me, and I'll tell you how I work. Or if you want help and advice, I'm happy to give it to you. So most people are like that. Most people are so helpful.
Yeah, brilliant. Another way, of course, that we're trying to get art out there, as you were saying, like social media, etc., is through our new website, the Southern Nature Exhibition. Give it a look. It's great. Kerry, I think some of your stuff's on there. All right, I think so.
Yes, yes, on my website, kerrymvaughan.co.uk.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sitting down with me this morning. It's been good.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, it's been really nice chatting to you as well. Hope that's been useful.
Yeah, I hope we get to see you next year at the exhibition.
Yeah, definitely. If we can go ahead next year, and let's hope we can. I'll definitely be there.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. We'll see you then. Bye.
Okay. Take care then. Bye.